All right, hey everybody. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Unity's taken a long time to load, but I think it's finally almost done. Starting to open Visual Studio. But how's everybody doing today? I hope your morning's gone good so far. Mine has been pretty good. No plumber today, so that's always a good thing. It's almost done. Okay, but today we're going to work some more on shaders. So yesterday, well, our goal is to try and make a toon shader in Unity. And a toon shader, also known as a cell shader, just basically colors objects in, I guess, discrete steps. So like here it's just fully lit and then completely black. Obviously our final toon shader will have a bit more steps than that. Whereas if I changed the dyno to just be standard, it'd be more smooth shaded like that. So yesterday we basically got it done working with one light, a directional light, and we supplied the toon shader our texture ramp, which tells the game basically how, like, what the steps in the shading are. And obviously we got some color set up. Oh, and we also got support for a deferred pipeline, which is a second render pipeline in Unity, or render mode. And it's not supported by all graphics cards, so we still need to support the default or forward rendering pipeline. But this mode is a lot more efficient, and you can have pretty much unlimited lights, whereas forward rendering you can only have a set amount. And the basics of the deferred pipeline is that you store a bunch of information about every object in something called a geometry buffer, which are these 4 things, and it stores the albedo color, which is the flat shading color, the specular color, which is for highlights, and then the normal, which tells the game well, how this face will interact with the light, and then this is for basically adding up all the effects of lights. So these 4 textures you pass to a deferred shader, which I have. Okay, yes, we can do that right here. And then it takes all the information in those different geometry buffers and then actually applies the lighting to it. So today I'm going to do specular lighting. And specular lighting is, yeah, again, just the technical term for highlights. And for right now, I'm going to turn off deferred shading because we'll just be working in forward, and then we'll add specular to the deferred pipeline. Okay, it's already in forward, but all right, so the basics. Oh, also, again, I'm kind of using a really great shader tutorial from a website called Cat-like Coding, and they have a ton of tutorials on shaders. So if you're interested in trying to understand how Unity's default shader works, I'd really recommend it. And I'm going to be also referring to it quite a lot. Also, we'll need to see Unity's default shaders, which I have downloaded right here. You can go on the Unity website and download them. And I want to get Unity's default lighting function. I'm trying to remember where it's stored. might need to go look this up real quick. What's the function called? Okay, yeah, so it says Unity BRDF PBS, which is basically Unity's physically based shader lighting model. And we're going to use it as a reference. Okay, so it's not in this file. Maybe I'll just look this up real quick instead of hunting through everything myself. In what file? Okay, maybe it's, let's see. Unity, standard, physically based shading. That would make sense, I guess. I don't see it. Maybe here. Okay, this is like if defined. But I want to see the actual definition for it. Alright, so let's refer to cat-like coding because I know they say coding. Probably in here. Okay, so it's Unity physically based shading lighting. Thought I looked in that one. Oh, it's because, oh, I see what's going on. So here, this is like a macro to the specific one. Okay, Unity standard BRDF. Let's look at that. Maybe. Okay, so is this all one function, isn't it? Oh yeah, so this is like one version of it. Okay. Allow explicitly override and a custom shader. I guess we could do that. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tweet that I went live. Let me do that real quick. Let's use this message. Oh, I forgot to do something. Sorry, I had a bit of a busy morning, if you can't tell. Alright, let's try it one more time. Alright. Okay, so anyway, back to shaders. Well, let's just look at the first version. Oh, this looks like the simplest one, old school. I'm just gonna trying to see how this works. Okay, this one's super simple. Oh, that's indirect light. Slightly different from original. Okay, interesting. It's kind of hard to read without highlights, and though they've indented it a bit strangely, but this is the main, so color, specular, specular color, the light. Oh, right, and so they have something called a Fresnel, which is basically a rim lighting, which we are going to take care of. So maybe I'll just... I was thinking that we could take this function and kind of modify it to our own, for our own uses, but I think it might be better just to write it ourselves, so I think that's what I'll do. But we need to get the specular light. And so here, yeah, specular tint. We probably will use this. So this function is something Unity defines, and it lets you kind of combine the albedo and the specular in such a way that they don't look too artificial. It's a little hard to explain. Because basically, it's, if you think of all the colors as light bouncing off, if you just add the albedo and the specular together, it tends to look like the light just generates from nowhere, so it's too strong. So this blends them together based on how metallic the material is, which if it's more metallic, it has more specular. And then also this reflectivity. Specular tint. Where is the specular color actually defined though? I'm trying to figure out. Get light, shadows. Get metallic. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't really have like a specular color. I guess that's based on the albedo maybe. Let's see what they say on the website. Yeah, so this is like referring to what I was just talking about, where here it adds the specular and albedos together. The tints alpha. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay, so yeah, the specular tint is part of the property. So I guess that's just how they deal with it. Probably. Oh, I see what happens. Yeah, so this function takes it in, but probably if you use this metallic, it just uses the specific name for... I don't actually see it. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how they define the specular color. Maybe we just won't use this metallic function after all. Okay, well, let's do something simple, I guess, for now. We just need to get a specular tint on it before worrying about energy conservation and everything. So the main thing about specular color is that you need to know the view position, because specular highlights are basically defined by light bouncing off the surface and hitting your eyes. So you need to know the view direction. Yeah, we have the normals, that's fine. Okay, I went too far. This is diffuse or albedo. Oh yeah, here's specular. So we need to know the view direction. Okay, and this is getting the reflection. Okay, I think I've got my head around it. So we're gonna need the view direction, and this we're gonna get the camera position and then the world position, which I don't know if I already stored in our shader. No, I don't have the world position, so we'll add that first here in the fragment. So this would be a float 3 world position. And again, we'll just store it in text chord 2. And to get the world position, dot world position. So we need to multiply this vertex by, I think it's called like Unity MVP matrix, and it's basically the local to world position. I think they have a macro for that, which, okay, no, you do just multiply it. Oh yeah, the MVP is for to projection space. So yeah, we want to multiply it to world space. So this is the object space to world space matrix. Now we'll just do an old school multiplication. Let's see, Unity might, no matching parameter, what? Oh, probably I used the wrong variable name. Yeah, it's vertex, not position. Okay. And so now we'll know the view direction right here. And so again, we'll need to reflect. Well, let's move this over so it's easier to get to. View direction is not used so far because this is just the diffuse shading. And so here's a reflection. Okay, and now we basically, I think we just take a dot product of the reflection with the light, or with the view direction, and then the stronger the dot product, we'd add more specular shading to that. So I guess we'd add that into our tune lighting function, wouldn't we? Or would the tune lighting actually calculate that? I guess I would need to know the world position, wouldn't it? Because it already gets the normal. Okay. Let's pass specular color, which we don't have yet. And then we'll pass the world position. And then normal, and then the light. We could also just pass the dot product of the view direction and the reflection direction. I don't know what would be better. Because I wonder, can we actually use this camera position in the deferred pipeline? Probably not, I would guess. Because we probably use like the depth. From the depth texture. Oops. Again, for this, I mean, they use the built-in function. This BRDF PBS, which just takes the specular tint. And then the reflectivity, and the smoothness is kind of like the size of the specular highlight. So it does have a view direction. Okay. So I guess it calculates the world position somehow inside the function. Because we don't actually give it that. Oh wait, no it doesn't. It only needs the world position for the view. Okay, and then it would reflect the light direction on the view direction. Okay, so yeah, we don't really need to pass the world. We'll just pass the view. Trying to decide on the order here. All right, so I'm gonna copy this and we'll bring it over to our lighting function, which is in here, or wait, in here. So now we have a float 3 spec color and float 3 view direction. Okay, and then just a light. So the light dot is fine. I don't think we'll need a tune ramp for the specular. We'll just make it so that either the specular is on or off, kind of based on... Well, maybe we could have a specular ramp. I don't know if we'll need that. Oh, hi Sammy Dutch. Thanks for stopping by. How you doing today? Okay, so reflection. This is actually just the albedo mult. So let's or maybe we can just go ahead and multiply the albedo right here. Because we probably won't need that value for anything else. And the reflection direction, well, no, leave that there. So we need to multiply. Well, no, I guess we'll need to get the specular dot. And again, we'll saturate it so it stays between 0 and 1. And so this time we'll do a dot based on the reflection direction and the view direction. And okay, and then so the specular tint, our spec color, we just multiply based on that dot. We'll do that for now just to kind of visualize it. And then again, I guess we'll just add them together, even though obviously this won't be right. Okay, so there's a problem. Undefined variable light direction. Oh yeah, and it's light dot. Dear. Hey, Offie Gamer. Good to see you again. How are you doing today? Oh right, and no I. This is normal. That's the problem with copying and pasting code. Cannot convert from Unity Light to float 3. Oh, on the deferred, I need to set up some things here. I'll just pass in normal because we're not going to use the deferred pipeline just yet. Light direction. Oh, I guess I didn't save the changes there. Okay, and now I need to define the get specular function. Doing good. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Past unit but failed the other one, which means overall. Oh. Yeah, that's a... I hope you do. Pass one unit. Oh, okay, so... Oh gosh, that's close. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it all works out. In some ways I do miss school, but I definitely don't miss having to take tests. So, okay, so we need to define the specular color here, and really, I mean, we could have a specular texture, but I don't really think that's needed. Because most of our terrain, or most of our models will just have one specific specular color. So I don't feel the need to have support for a texture, and plus that would just be more work. I'd have to make a specular and albedo texture. Okay, so this is specular color, and it's a color, and we'll default it to white. Carry on doing your thing. You want computing? Yeah, definitely. I'm sure everything will work out in the end. It's useful for the future, that's for sure. Have I been? I've had a pretty busy morning, but I'm definitely glad to be getting to this project. I think I'm going to make some progress today, I feel. At least now you can focus on one test. Yeah, that's true. I'm sure that one will go well. Okay, so no errors. Do this specular color is not showing up. Did I put it in the wrong? No, it's on the... Oh yeah, this is not... This is the old tune shader. Okay, so yeah, I'll just close that one. Where's my tune shader? Okay, so we'll just add that there, and now the color should pop up. Oh, yeah, we already have a specular light. Obviously, this isn't tune shaded, but kind of shows how specular lights work. Okay, so you're pretty happy with that. Now, one interesting thing about specular color is even though this is like directly pointing towards the view direction, it's actually a little bit more realistic if you use a halfway point between the reflection direction and the view direction to take the dot product. So we'll see about that, and just make sure that my color is, that I'm saying the right vectors there for the half. Because the half vector is the light direction plus the view direction, okay. But where is okay, yeah, so you take the dot product based on the half vector and the normal. So kind of like what we're doing, except we need to basically add this back in. Wait, did they not reflect? Okay, yeah, so they don't even reflect, they just take the average. Interesting. Let's see how this looks. Suppose it is supposed to be more realistic. Oh, if you... Oh, again, this is supposed to be light dot direction. Oh. Got the semicolon. I'm not working in Lua. Oh, wow. Okay, well, obviously I did something wrong because there's way too much specular color. Am I doing this? Oh, this is the normal. Okay. Still is a whole lot of specular. Probably because right now it's very smooth. So that's what the smoothness basically constricts the specular highlight to something small. So if we take that into account right now. And we'll basically, I think I'll just hard code a value in here just to see how it looks. Okay, so now it's a very small specular highlight. It doesn't really look that good with our low poly models. Well, actually, it looks better with Egg Dino than it does with these. But obviously that's too smooth, I think. Okay. Another thing I might want to do is, I said I didn't want to have a specular color texture, but I might want to have something that's only certain areas get a specular highlight. Because I think the egg would be shinier than his head, for example. Oh, 1 second, my cat wants to get out. She's so funny. Every time I go to open the door, she like acts like she wants to stay in, even though I know that if I came and sat back down again, she'd start scratching at it again. Alright, so anyway, we have basic specular here. Is this how I really want it to look, though? Well, no, because I want it to be more toon shaded. Let me see. I have... Again, I think I've talked about Minion's art before. She has a bunch of really great toon shading tutorials, and I want to see how she does the specular highlights. Yeah, those look... Okay, well basically it's not much different. It's just either full strength or nothing. It's interesting she has a specular offset though. I wonder how I could support that. And the size is basically just the same as smoothness. But something like specular size. Okay, so they do have a specular ramp. Maybe we will need to do something like that. Okay, it's interesting that the specular here is only based on the object's normal and the light direction. Instead of using the half vector or reflections or anything that we've done. It's kind of hard. I would like to make a little stronger, but I think it's just because like it's a little hard to see the specular highlight on top of the shell, so I might change the specular color to red or something. Oh, that doesn't help at all. Now it's almost invisible on the eggshell. It's probably because I'm adding it to the albedo. So, for example, probably the shell is already fully red, so you can't actually see it. I think in toon shading, that might be preferable. So how do I want to do this? Actually, I think that pretty much I want the specular color to kind of override the albedo when specular color is active. So maybe what I should do is I'll just have a specular ramp, and then we'll take the strength of the specular at that position, and we'll do an average between the albedo and the specular base at the strength of it. Okay. I guess we'll need to do a specular ramp. I might just use the normal toon ramp for this. Well, no, the specular should be a lot more concentrated, so something like that. And again, I'll call this a spec ramp. Okay, and here it is right here, and we'll want to make it, again, not sRGB because it's a data texture. Well, actually it is a color texture, isn't it? Because we're going to multiply the colors together. I didn't think about that. But anyway, yeah, we don't want bitmaps, that's for sure. And it should be point, filter, clamp. Okay, we're good to go. And now I need to, oh, I don't even have it. The property and the tune lighting shader. Oops, I didn't want to pull it out, I just want to move this over here. Well, I guess we'll still have a specular color because that's like analogous to this main texture. I still don't think I need a specular color texture. Although if I'm going to have like a shiny map, maybe we'll just combine them. I don't know. Actually, let's move this. This is a specular map. Okay. Now if I look in here, we should have a new specular map here, and I'll just use... Alright, so now that's set up. Of course, nothing changed because I don't actually sample from that. But then when I go to lighting common, so we'll use this view dot to sample from the texture. And I guess I won't need to do POW anymore. Oh wait. I was thinking that I messed up here, but yeah, it's supposed to be the same. Because basically we're treating it as a 1D texture. Okay, that looks really weird. Well, I think that's because, yeah, these materials don't have the tune ramp yet. Or the spec ramp. Okay, yeah, so this looks better, well, on these objects, but obviously the red is a little weird for Toon Dino. There's a bit of blending right there I'm surprised about. Probably because this doesn't, like the border isn't exactly on a pixel, so it's outputting when, what's this program called? Inkscape outputs this image, it alias or anti-aliases that border, so there's a slight bit of blending. I guess we could actually look and see. Not that it really matters, but yeah, so there's a little bit of blending right there. That's okay. So how I want this to work is basically I want the red highlight to always show up where it should on the egg dino. Because I think that the specular color should overwrite the albedo when it's strong. So we need to get, I guess, would we get the, or how would I find the strength of the specular color? Well, colors have to be between 0 and 1, but they're not normalized. I guess it'd be like the strongest component of the color. Is there a way I could just get the maximum? I think there might be. Okay. I guess there's not. I was hoping that there was a helper function that you could get the max component of a vector, but I guess not. So let's do float specular strength. So we're going to get the maximum color of the specular. Or the maximum component, I should say. And so then we're going to do a weighted average here. So albedo is 1 minus specular strength. And then the color, or the specular is just specular strength. All right, so now the red should override it, and it does. I don't know if that looks good. But it kind of gets the idea across. So if I did a bit more blending here, I'll turn off snap. That'll be strong like at the very beginning. And then here, we'll bring it up slightly. Let's see how this looks. Okay. Well, obviously we need to edit the colors a bit. But that's kind of the idea I'm going for. And obviously red was just for testing. Yeah, just 1 pixel. Actually, this doesn't look too good, does it? It should blend smoother. You know what? I think it might have to do with gamma space. Where is that? Gamma. Well, you might have seen in games, they usually have an option that you can adjust the gamma strength of your game, and it's kind of like the brightness of colors. And Unity has it too. Let me see. Do I have it turned on? So I want to just change it to linear space for now. I forget where I do that. It's not being quality. Let's see. Normal map. Alright, I know that there is a way to do it. Maybe I just need to support gamma right off the bat. I need to remember. I think it talks about it here. How to convert between gamma and linear. I know that things don't blend that well in gamma space. I guess I talked about it in a previous tutorial. Let's go check that out. Not this one. Okay, what is gamma space? Here's like some graphs between gamma. Oh yeah, so sRGB is in gamma, so it stores colors with an average of 1 divided by 2.2. And the whole reason is because our eyes are better at detecting differences in darker colors. So you want to try and have, I guess, more granularity of the colors at the darker end of the spectrum. Okay, so let's fine. There's no change in gamma 2 means the original value is squared. Okay, so that's an edit project settings player. All right. I don't see that. Other settings. Okay, yeah, rendering. Yeah, so it isn't gamma. So if I change it to linear, will it blend better? We'll definitely want to support gamma because that's how most people have their settings. But yeah, it does blend better in linear space, although it's still a little ugly. Oh, I think I know why. It's because here we're multiplying the specular color by the value in the specular ramp, and maybe we only want to use the value in the specular ramp to average between the albedo and the specular color. Okay, so let's try that out. So float, specular, lerp. Okay, actually, yeah, so we don't even need to use this specular strength. We'll just use this ramp texture to average between them. I think that will look better. Because I was kind of, before I was kind of double dipping. Okay, so something is wrong. Oh yeah, I can't use the multiply equals because it's not, specular lerp wasn't defined before, obviously. Okay, that looks a lot better. The color is still hard to see on the egg, but that's just because I need to change the colors. So it doesn't have anything to do with the shader itself. Yeah, that looks much better, I think. If I switch to gamma, oh, that doesn't, I mean, it looks different, but it doesn't look horrible. Okay, but now definitely the specular ramp is not a color texture, so I need to change it. Although it didn't really make any difference. Okay, so I do need to look into how these will blend together in gamma and linear space. Let me see, so investigate blending albedo and specular and gamma versus linear color space. Because I know in gamma I probably will need to square these before I combine them and then take the square root. But I don't need to worry about that too much right now. Okay, so now let's add this to deferred pipeline. And I think if I switch to deferred, the specular color is just gonna... Oh yeah, so I think no matter what, the editor view stays in forward, but if I switch to the game view, it's all messed up now because there's no specular color. And if I switch back to forward, it looks fine. That's because our deferred light shader does not take into account anything about the specular. So this toon lighting, yeah, we just returns or send 0 for a specular color and the view direction. So the specular color will be easy to get. Specular text 2D, and it's just a camera graphics buffer. Texture 1 is where we'll store the specular. Could we... I wonder if I even need to have them separate now. Oh, well, maybe because it's different based on the light. Yeah, we have to take the light direction, so yeah, we do need to separate them. I was thinking that maybe we could just pass this combined value and store it pre-multiplied before we send it to the deferred shader. But we can't do that because it does depend on the light direction, and anything that depends on the light needs to go through the deferred shader. That's the whole point. Okay, so we can pass that, and then the view direction. That's... I don't know how to get that, actually. So let's look at cat-like shaders, or cat-like coding's deferred shader. So the view direction, okay, actually it is exactly the same. Except the world position is a little bit more complicated. Yeah, so that's what I thought. We'll need to sample the depth texture. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll just copy all this because pretty much all this code is just to get the view direction. And do I have... All right, I need to uncomment that. The depth texture is... If you think of the camera, well, I guess you always think of the camera as a camera, but it will render every pixel in a texture based on how far from the camera to that specific pixel. And I think black means... actually, I don't remember exactly if black is really far away or close, but doesn't make much difference because this sample depth texture will actually take care of that for us, and then we pass linear 0 to 1 depth and it will scale it all to a value between 0 and 1 that we can just multiply by our ray to far plane variable here, which takes the ray direction, and then this projection parameters gives us the distance to the camera's far clip plane, which is basically the farthest distance it will ever render. And we multiply it by the ray z, which is kind of like the ray's z length. And the rays kind of correspond to a straight line pointing out from the camera to the specific pixel that this fragment function is going to run on. And then we take the view position, which is, again, the position of this pixel in the view view space, which is like camera space, and then we use the camera to world to transform it to world position, and then from there we can finally get the view direction. And all right, so we did all that, and we need to pass that to the lights here. And I think that doesn't fix it, did it? Maybe it's because the specular texture is still not set up. So what I need to do now is the shader setup needs to apply another global texture, which is the specular. Let's actually change it to specular tune ramp and albedo tune ramp. This is more like the lighting tune ramp. I think I'll change the names and everything. And then here, and then of course where it actually samples from them, I need to change the name. Since they're going to be global variables, I wanted it to be a bit more unique of a name. Okay, and then I just need to get a reference. Unfortunately, there's not really an easier way to set a global variable. We have to always go through a C# script. Like we can't actually define this variable somehow in the shader script. It's not a huge deal, but now we're going to have to make sure that we always, I guess, the very first scene that the game loads into will always need to have this script that will set those materials for us, or textures for us. I don't know why that took so long to compile. Okay, where do I... Oh, right here. So, specular ramp and toon ramp. Consequently, deferred shading will never really work well unless we actually play the game. Interesting. So the specular ramp is like inverted. Why is that? Does the frame debugger have a little bit more information for us? Okay, so the frame debugger is, again, you can step through all the steps that the game takes to render a scene. So that's the albedo buffer, I guess. Oh, I see. So we want to render texture 1 as the albedo. Oh, I know what's wrong. I think actually in the material shader, I don't pass the specular color in here. Okay, so float 3 specular is get specular. Okay, and we only need this view direction and deferred, or in the forward base pass. There we go. So now, I don't know if it'll update right away. Okay, so now it just has this specular color in render texture 0. So I think if I disable the frame buffer, okay, so, well, at least we have specular colors, but something is still wrong. Interesting. Oh yeah. Let's see if it would show us a depth buffer. Just because I was trying to talk about it before. Doesn't seem to want to display it. Reflections? Why is it doing reflections? That seems to be where that extra information is coming from. Yeah, that's it's adding in reflections. Oh, well, I guess reflections are kind of just like their own separate lights. That must be what's going on. I'm surprised I didn't notice this earlier. What I need to do is turn off the reflection shader. So yeah, deferred reflections, no support. Okay, yeah, that fixes it. Okay, what's going on here? It seems like I messed up forward rendering at some point. Yeah, so the forward rendering, it just shows the specular color only. It didn't overwrite anything. The view direction. Maybe, oh, I think I know what. Yeah, when I change the name of the textures, I just need to reset the ramp textures here. Okay, there we go. Probably that shows me that really I should probably just delete these because they should use the global textures. Okay, so it's starting to look pretty good. I think that I'm happy with Specular for now. So now I want to do a rim light, which is basically a faint light around the edge of an object. It just kind of adds outlining, and since we probably won't have a lot of complicated what's the word? Complicated like indirect light and reflections in this game, it will just add some body to the rest of the object. We do need an ambient light color actually. Now that I think about it. Maybe I'll add that in first before I do rim lighting. Because yeah, this is way too dark, obviously. Ambient lighting is kind of tied into like supporting other types of lights as well. Because the way Unity does it, it adds an ambient lighting into something called spherical harmonics, which is a way to approximate lighting for a bunch of extra lights that aren't supported in forward rendering. You can read about it here more if you're interested. But basically we just have to use this shade SH9 function to get the spherical harmonics. And it only takes the normal. And normally I think it's taken into account in this Unity BRDF physically based shading, but obviously we're not going to use it. So if I add this into the common lighting, let's be normal. Well, I don't think, I'm not sure if this is the way to do it for deferred shading, but let's just try it out. Okay, so now we see spherical harmonics, and it's basically just this ambient color. I think if I change this, it'd also be used for other things. If we had a whole bunch of lights, Unity will again approximate them. So we can just add this color. I don't think we'll need to do any fancy averaging. Oops, I just deleted the spherical harmonics. I just wanted to delete that. That's interesting. Surprised this hadn't thrown an error because I actually return a float 4. Okay, that's kind of wasteful. Even though it's supposed to be a float 3, so that extra alpha value that I was adding to the end is just getting ignored. But okay, so now it has the average value or the ambient light. Okay, I know what's wrong. The ambient light, I don't think that we can support it. Well, I think we'll still add the color, but I think the real reason that this looks weird is because the albedo just falls off completely. And I was kind of, what I was envisioning here is that this light would add in some of the actual albedo texture. But we still want to support some kind of ambient lighting, so I guess the question is how. Let's actually turn this off for now. And this is actually the specular ramp. Okay, so how do I want to handle this? One way is that we could lighten this color, but then I think if we have multiple lights, they'll like add together and it'll start to get too bright in the shadows. But I guess we'll just look how it's, or see how it looks. Should be the tune ramp, not the specular. Okay, so why'd everything get so much darker? Oh. Yeah, this should be a lot smaller. Maybe not quite that much. That didn't seem to change anything. What's going on here? Tune ramp. Oh. Did update, but the shader hasn't updated. Oh, because probably the global texture didn't get reset. Wait, that doesn't make much sense. Okay, I guess that was it. Okay, so that kind of looks better. Also, do I take the light color into consideration at all? No. Maybe the light color should be the specular color and we won't actually have a separate specular tint. That might be better. And also maybe a better way to do it is we use the lighting ramp just as a kind of float value, not as a color. And then we'll average the lighting based on the color of the albedo, and then total dark would be the ambient color. I don't know. Okay, well, one issue I was thinking of is if I duplicate this light in forward rendering, the dark part is going to get brighter because it'll be written twice. Oh, it also has a weird little thing on the back. I don't know why that is. Does that show up with just one light? No. But that's because in forward rendering, it basically adds everything on top of each other. So we need to make sure that we only apply the spherical harmonics light in the forward base pass. So we do if defined forward base pass. Then for deferred, ambient light will be handled completely differently. Maybe, let's see. Maybe I should just add this to the albedo. Did I forget something? Oh, I did that format wrong here for our preprocessor directive. Still something wrong. Tune learning, must return. Oh, I know it. I forgot to delete that. Alright, there we go. And another thing I want to do is multiply the albedo by the light color. Because I don't take that into account at all. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So if I change the light color, it slightly affects the albedo. And obviously you keep it close to white so it's not too changing. And probably the specular color, I should just make the light color as well. I think that would make more sense. Because it's the specular color is basically just light that bounces back from the light into our eyes, so it's not going to be affected much by the rest, or the actual material it bounces off of. So in that case, I don't need the specular color at all. And I don't need the specular color to be defined in the shader. Okay, and then I just need to change. I guess I don't need to get specular. And it's going to complain right here, so I'll just get rid of that. Oh well, let's see. Specular value still comes from here. Yeah, we'll still need to pass something because specular, because certain areas might not have a specular light. So I guess we basically just pass white to the deferred shader. Oh, I guess, okay, let's change what I just did. We'll just have you can multiply the light color by the specular color, that's fine. So I guess I probably should name the specular tint, but speaking about that, do I want to have a tint color for the albedo? Might as well add that in. So now, this is just in the material. Just multiply the color by the albedo. Just if you ever wanted to do that. Oh, except I need to declare the variable in CG here. Still doesn't like that. Oh, you know what? I need to add and support for specular color back into the common lighting. So specular color, we just multiply by the light color. Okay, and then, excuse me, Toon Dino. I guess I'll change the specular color to white, so it'll just use the lights color. But we could check, actually, if I change it to blue. Doesn't seem to do anything. Did I... forget something somewhere? Get specular. Maybe I spelled it wrong. Let me pass it right here. If I change this to like black, does that make a difference? No, it doesn't affect it at all. Oh, because I don't use the spec color anywhere. Of course. Yes, if I have, now I'll have red again, but I actually just want it to be white because it'll just be the lights color. And then this tint color will be for the albedo, so yeah, we can change this to whatever hue we want. Alright, so we're getting somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, so rim light, do... I still haven't really figured out how I want... I guess this is okay. I think this should be black because it's like an area that the light won't affect the color at all. But on the main pass, I don't want it to just be pure black because I want the ambient color to still show the texture a little bit. Oh yeah, I just have to press play to refresh it. So if I add back... Okay, is it even... Oh, I have the ambient color set to black. I mean, yeah, to black, so that's why this is completely black. But it doesn't look good, just... a flat color. I want it to very slightly have the rest of the albedo. So maybe what I should do is if we're in the forward base pass, we'll actually add in the albedo multiplied by the ambient color. That doesn't seem to do anything. It's the main camera. Oh, it's in deferred mode. I want it to be forward for now. Yeah, so it's too bright there because the ambient color is being added. Hmm. Maybe... Do we lerp between it somehow? That might be the way to go. So yeah, Specular, multiply albedo by the light. So okay, I think this might be the way to do it. So if we're in forward base pass, we lerp between the albedo and the ambient color. Oh, that's still going to not have any of the texture when we get to pure black. Maybe the way to do it is instead of having like an ambient color. Well, no, I do want the ambient color to affect the shadows. Yeah, that doesn't do it. Maybe we should have like a minimum value to the ramp. But only on the base pass. And then we lerp between the light color and the ambient color. Well, that doesn't work either because the ambient color, again, this spherical harmonics also kind of have other lights in it. So we go back to this, but again, it's too bright because it's adding the spherical harmonic to it. But it's still black over here. That's kind of weird. Oh, I think it's because... Yeah, so really this should just be added to the final color. 3. Color equals... Maybe I'm overthinking it and it should just be black. And the issue I'm having... is I just need to make the pure black part of the ramp smaller. Okay, so it's too blue, but that's just because the ambient color is too strong. I think I need to play to get the texture to refresh. Does look better. I don't know. Let me see something. Maybe one thing I'm not liking is that it's too sharp, these edges. And I think it's... Yeah, the normals are not calculated, so I want them to be smoother. So not that. This would be Toon Dino. Okay, so now the lighting is smoother on all of the faces because I normalized the... Oh, it updated that too. That, I'm not sure if that looks better. It's like, it's kind of all weird and wavy now. And the Specular is a lot stronger on the feet. Actually, the Specular in general is very strong on Egg Dino now. Okay, so that just tells me I need to make the Specular ramp a bit more restricted. Okay, so that does look a little better. I don't know. There's pros and cons. Okay, so if I add another light, I think... I'm kind of surprised it was supported at all, actually, because I don't have another pass for lights. It's not tune shaded either, is it? So did Unity just like give me an extra pass even though I didn't ask for one? Yeah, so I have forward base. And then I need to have another pass for forward additive, and that's for extra lights. I forget, is it additive or just forward add? I should look it up. Okay, so forward add, and then I want to... Okay, it doesn't have a specific define for forward add. That probably makes sense. Okay, so I don't want to define that. Valid subscript G buffer 0. Oh, I see. Well, this should, for the forward base pass or the forward additive, so really this should be, if not, deferred pass. I think I need to put out there. So variable light is used without having been conditioned. Okay, so again, this needs to be if deferred pass and then else. Oh, did I delete the return statement? It's still not cell shaded, is it? Let's make this a blue light so we can tell the difference. Like our normal light is working fine, but this blue one, like it doesn't even have specular highlights. did I... Yeah, this doesn't even care about additive. I don't have it on deferred mode, do I? No, it's forward. Oh, maybe it's because in settings... Okay, yeah, so this is that issue I was talking about with the forward lights. I think that the issue is I only have 1 pixel light. Oh no, I have 4. So why isn't it? I don't even support the other light types. It's like it's using a different shader for this. Let's look at the frame debugger. Maybe we can get a better idea of what's going on. It's still... Oh, you know what? Maybe it's incorporating this into the spherical harmonics for some reason. So render mode important. That should... Again, there's no shadows. Okay, so is it for some reason in part of the spherical harmonics? So if I take that out, does the blue light just disappear? Yes. Why is it? I thought that it should only try to put it in a spherical harmonics if there's no room for another light. But obviously I have 4 pixel lights enabled. I'm in the highest. In fact, let's just delete all these. Yeah, so we have 4 pixel lights. And in the frame debugger, yeah, it only renders once for every light. What's going on, Unity? Let's move this. What I would expect with 2 lights is that it would have, because the whole point of forward rendering is it renders 1 object per, or does 1 draw call per object per light. So I would have expected another draw call for each of these meshes with the blue light, but I should even use the forward add. Oh, okay. I think I named it wrong. I went in here to look, but did I not actually change the name in my shader? Yeah, that's the issue. Okay. I thought I even said I should go look and see what this is named. I guess I got sidetracked. Okay, so yeah, so now it's rendering the blue light as well. Okay, so Unity, it wasn't your fault. Okay, but it's like overriding the other one. Maybe, oh, I think I have the wrong blend mode set up. Yeah, it should be additive, so it should be 1-1. Blend 1-1. Now it adds the different modes by just adding the pixels together. Okay, so that is better. So I don't want it to be so strong. Because that's speculars for both lights. I guess I would just, if I didn't want speculars, I'd just lower the light color and then it doesn't show up as much. And so that would be how I'd backlight an object a little better. I still would kind of like better ambient lighting, so I wouldn't have to rely on another light like this. I think what I'm going to need to do is use a spherical harmonics to sample the light ramp again somehow. Okay, so at least we know that light works. I guess I should test it with deferred, but so I kind of want like an ambient light and then also a flat light when it's completely dark. Well, I guess if that's the case, then what I'd actually need to do, I kind of did that already. Something like this. I just have the very end black. So that's a little better, but still maybe, okay, maybe I should keep negative values for the dot product and then at least for the main light and even areas behind it would be affected somehow. Okay, yeah, let's try that. So float saturated light dot is just saturate light dot, and we'll use this to get the albedo color normally. And then if we're in forward base pass, first we'll add the spherical harmonics. And then also I'll add I guess I'll need to reference I'll need to get a reference to the ambient color somehow. I think in Unity the only way to get it is through the spherical harmonics, which is a bit of a shame because that also includes other lights. Let's see. Unity access ambient light. Let's see what that comes up. I think people are just going to say use spherical harmonics, but I don't really want to. That's how you can set it. Okay, this is just like telling from somebody using the engine's point of view and not from the shader. Ooh, okay. The ambient lighting color, perfect. Oh, it's legacy though. Gradient ambient. So I think this is used if you use the skybox as your ambient color. But at least they're not a legacy variable. 'Cause that means it'll probably be deleted at some point. Maybe we can see how the shade SH9 accesses the ambient lighting. Do I have this already? Oh, what file did it say it was in? Unity CG. Shade SH9. Okay, well that's useful actually. But doesn't actually say how it got this information. So linear and L2. Okay, so it's just already precompiled them and given them to the variables. Doesn't actually get the ambient color. Okay. So it looks like there's not a real way to do this. Unless we use these variables. Maybe the light model ambient is part of one of those other variables now. It's from 2012, but maybe somebody will say like what to use it by now. Or what to use it for now. Actually points to... Should probably just use ambient equator now. Okay. Let's try that. So I just want a plain color and let's set it to, I don't know, blue. So yeah, I don't know. We might still use that, but I just want to see what happens if this works. No, it does not work. It does work if I do that, if I'm in the gradient mode. So it looks like sky took the old color, so maybe I just need to use the sky variable. Okay, so it is ambient sky. So I think I'll still just add in... Well, these lights aren't going to be cell shaded actually, so I don't even know if I want to use spherical coordinates. I think about it, all that work for nothing. Because we saw that when that directional light was part of the spherical coordinates, it just didn't look right. It wasn't cell shaded. Okay, so what I want to do... What do I want to do here? I guess, can't just lerp because it's not cell shaded. I guess if, color plus equals lerp saturate, light dot, or negative light dot. So now this would be between 0 and 1. So at 0, which is basically the albedo, we'll return ambient sky times albedo. And then, well, I guess we'll just try this out. It's going to be, I mean, it's not going to be cell shaded right now, but that's okay. Yeah, so we'll just lerp between the albedo and then the Unity ambient sky, and let's see how that looks. And that should actually, we should have set the albedo to that instead of adding it to the color. That did not work. Oh, okay. That's because if it's positive, if the light dot was positive, then it was going to return. Okay, this is just gonna take some time to figure out. I need to figure out exactly what I want. I kind of want just for the base pass for the entire object to be shaded a little more than this, so I don't have to rely on backlights quite as much. So I kind of like it to be just darker here and then maybe black at the very back. And I think I can use the entire dot product. Yeah, the light dot here unsaturated, which means it goes from -1 to 1 at this point. And I might just need another tune ramp for this. I guess I'd just call it shadow ramp or something, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to need to play around with it, I think. But unfortunately, I've got to go and eat lunch. So, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow at the latest. I might... Well, I don't want to commit to it, but I might be able to stream something else tonight. So I guess just keep a lookout on my Twitter if you're interested in that. I'm going to be doing some pixel art maybe for a separate project. But yeah, feel free to follow me here on Twitch or Twitter and you'll be notified about that. And also when we continue working on shaders around noon Eastern tomorrow. Also, feel free to check out my YouTube channel if you miss any stream and you'd like to catch up. I do post everything there. And finally, I'd love to have you on my Discord. You can get a link to that. Anybody's welcome. And I think that's it for me for today. Again, thanks everybody for coming by, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.